I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Voters in the city of Duluth head to the polls next Tuesday, and the highest profile race on the ballot will be for mayor.
Incumbent Mayor Emily Larson and her opponent Dave Noley are joining us in the studio to debate the issues in the campaign.
And we'll remember Xavier Bell, founder of the Family Freedom Center, who passed away last weekend at the age of 57.
Those stories on the business news up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. And Denny, many of us woke up to a trace of snow on the ground this morning. What does that mean?
It means I'm not ready. Actually, I got up before it started to snow. I looked out the window and let the dog out a little while later and said, "Say what?"
Well, you might not be ready, but we do have some guests.
Yeah, we certainly
were
ready for that.
They're ready to get
Yes.
started.
All right. Thank you very much, Julie, and welcome, everyone. Well, voters in Duluth have some important decisions to make next Tuesday at the ballot box. 5 city councilors and 3 Duluth school board members will be elected that day. Topping the Duluth ballot will be the mayor's race, as voters decide who will lead the city for the next 4 years. The candidates join us now for an Almanac North forum. Emily Larson, of course, is the current mayor. Previously, she served on the Duluth City Council. And Dave Noley is the challenger. He is the former CEO of the Voyager Council of the Boy Scouts of America and is a nonprofit and business consultant. Welcome. Want to thank both of you for being here. Nice to have you on a Friday night.
Us.
So we should probably get started.
Let's do it.
Dave, I think we'll begin with you tonight.
Sure.
Why do you want to be the mayor of Duluth?
Well, Denny, I made that decision a little bit earlier this spring. As I was preparing remarks for my grandmother's funeral, had the opportunity to work on a eulogy, and was reminded of a saying of hers that said, went something like, if you're waiting for reinforcements, they ain't coming. And that kind of resonated with me as I was watching the filings heading into the mayor's race, saying, you know, somebody needs to step up, and who's going to do that? And that settled with me to say it's time for me to step up and offer a lifetime of experimenting with leadership, a lifetime of studying leadership, and a lifetime of practicing leadership in various roles with the Boy Scouts of America, with Rotary, and no offense, I know you're a Kiwanian, but with service organizations and throughout my church and other organizations around the communities that I've lived in. I decided, you know, here's an opportunity for me to step forward and offer some leadership.
Okay, thank you. And Mayor, why do you want a second term as mayor of the city?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us.
You
It's
bet.
great to be here on a Friday night. I'm really excited about the direction where we're going. We have a quarter century of long-term dedicated streets funding. We have 1,400 new units of housing. We have a comprehensive plan to chart the path for the next 15 years. We have aligned our planning and economic development divisions. This is the work I've been doing for 4 years, and I am so energized to continue the growth, to accelerate, to continue to, you know, have impact in areas from affordable housing to reducing the addiction of opiates and increasing our impact as it relates to energy. So I am ready to just keep this momentum growing.
Mm-hmm. Are there specific priorities that you would really want to focus on as you head into your second 4 years, having been in the job for 4 years?
Yeah, so we have just launched the Mayor's Task Force for Housing and Affordability, and that will be a really primary focus of mine in the next 4 years. We know that housing is an issue for seniors who are ready to move out of their home, but they want to stay in the community in something that's affordable. For debt-burdened college students and college graduates, for families who want to move into the next iteration of housing, and affordability is a big deal. We are hearing from employers that it's an issue. Childcare is also an issue. So really working on some of those broader systemic issues that require the government and local municipality to step in and step up and be a part of the solution.
And Dave, what would your priorities be if you were mayor?
Well, you know, my priorities are very similar. It should come as no surprise that in my time here in Duluth and in other scouting roles that I've been very closely connected with business leaders. And perhaps as a contrast to the mayor's comment before, in many instances, particularly from my perspective from the business community, that frankly the government is often in the way. Often the way when it comes to housing growth, occasionally in the way when it comes to business expansion that's going to lead to jobs and overall growth for our community. The opioid epidemic and addressing the underlying root causes that exist there, and the opportunity to continue to grow partnerships with other governmental organizations, be it the county, be it the state or federal levels, to address those underlying root causes. Lack of access to mental health, for example, are examples of where collectively we as a community, not just our government, but all of our citizens, all of our business leaders can come together behind a cause that we all know that we need to work toward.
Mayor, what are voters telling you as you campaign?
Yeah, so I love door knocking. I've been on the doors for months, and I'm running a campaign I really believe in because I think voters deserve the same kind of engagement that they have gotten from me 4 years ago when I first ran for mayor, 4 years before that when I won as at-large city councilor. So really the issues I hear about are streets. People want to know what's happening with our streets program, which is one of the reasons we're having these 10 City Hall and the city events across the city at different times so that people can impact our streets plan for the next 5 years. They're talking about housing, and that is new. People did not talk to me about housing 4 years ago. They're talking about economic development and how to grow local jobs and how to make sure that, you know, we have this wonderful $1.1 billion going into our medical district. How can we make sure that that kind of investment is leveraged with ancillary growth? How can we make sure that that kind of investment is inclusive of housing and retail? How can we make sure that the community also benefits from this incredible investment?
And David, what are you hearing from voters?
Very much the same things. Streets is always number one, followed by opioids in the drugs that are there. Occasionally housing, but not quite as often. And then to kind of go back and sum those up, so streets and opioids, and I hear folks saying, yeah, but we're not moving fast enough. It's not happening. We expected more progress by this point in time. And that's palpable, and I hear it on all ends of town, whether I'm in Lester Park or Fond du Lac, Morgan Park, or over the hill.
Well, let's take one of those issues. Now that we have that 0.5% sales tax to pay for street improvements, what are some of the things that you would do to maybe accelerate that program? And how would you decide what the priorities should be in terms of where those dollars would be designated?
Well, I'll give credit to the mayor in the process that has begun to recognize that the application of those sales taxes throughout the city and making them equitable in all neighborhoods is very, very important. They can't be localized in any particular area. Involving and engaging citizens in that decision-making process, but of course recognizing that we have subject matter experts on our city staff that can help determine where we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck. There was a moment over the summer where it was uncomfortable because it felt like to many, and this was kind of headed into the primary season, for many folks when I'm out and about and talking to them, that it felt like, well, we thought we were voting for a sales tax that was going to fix our residential streets, but doggone it, how come we're hearing that a chunk of it is going in and around the medical district? And I recognize there are residential streets in and around the medical district, but perception is a key component of reality there. That it seemed for some that it wasn't what they thought they had voted for.
And Emily Larson, maybe you can address some of those perceptions in your response.
Yeah, well, we are doing 17 miles of streets next year, which is really wonderful, investing $10 million, the $7 million we anticipate from the 0.5% sales tax, adding to that the $3 million that I committed to dedicate from our general fund expenses to that. So $10 million that is more than has ever been spent when we looked back through records in roads. Compare that to 2.5 miles of what we did this year. The decisions we made include 0.27 miles of that 17 miles in the medical district, so a very reasonable amount to serve the residents of the medical district, because of course there are thousands of people who live within that same area. We make determinations, and we talk about this in these 10 City Hall and the city events. We make our determinations based on what's needed for underground infrastructure. Where is the state doing their MSA, Metropolitan Assistance Program, dollars? Where's the county doing their road dollars? Where are our economic development hubs? How can we use streets dollars to help incentivize economic development within our neighborhood corridors? And in our comprehensive plan, we've identified 12 neighborhood nodes of economic development. So we really do have subject matter experts and a transportation planner who are all tasked with taking that input in. And then at these City Hall and the city events, we have a big map out, and we invite residents to mark the streets that they feel passionately about. Those are streets we will get to in the next 5 years.
You've both mentioned opioids. David, specifically, what would you do as mayor in the battle against drug use in the city?
As mayor, it's going to take a lot more partnership, particularly with the county, particularly with the courts. Those are two primary partners, but it's going to need to be a holistic approach. The medical providers, so addressing it from a demand side, and then of course energizing and empowering our law enforcement officials with the resources necessary to address more of the supply side that is leading into it. It's to kind of steal one of the mayor's lines from a previous time that we visited. It's a math problem here too. A plus B can equal C. We have supply and demand. We can't just address only supply or only demand. We have to address both components, and it has to be involving the entire community.
And Mayor, tell our viewers specifically what you are doing in that battle.
This has been an area that we have invested considerable time and attention, and I really want to thank residents that have shared deeply personal stories with me about how opiates have impacted them, their families, their community, their neighborhood. So we have done several things. We have applied social services in a partnership with St. Louis County. We now have a social worker with our police department who makes follow-up calls individually to opiate overdose households. We have a opiate withdrawal system that is now in place that was not in place before. It's very innovative. Nobody else has this. If I overdose and go to a hospital, I now have a place that I can medically withdraw as opposed to being discharged and going right home. We have a partnership with the FBI and the DEA, also the first in the country, to look at the enforcement model of that, and then also building up social support. So we have increased, actually begun, reinstated youth programming through our parks in the schools. We've also increased our programming at the library, made our libraries fine free. These kinds of things that we're doing are about providing social connection and giving people places that are low cost, no cost, to feel safe and to get out of their homes. So it really is a holistic approach. And you know, I am energized to do more in this area. We have another announcement coming next week with more investment that we'll be making.
Right or wrong, Duluth over the years has battled a reputation as not being very business friendly. How would you rate Duluth's business climate, and what do you think we could still do better to make the community more business friendly and to maybe get rid of some of those perceptions?
So I'm smiling because I love this question. We are a great place to do business right now. And I know this because of the number of permits that are getting pulled, the number of business contacts that we get. We are leading the state in opportunity zone investment funding. This is funding that's coming in from regional and national investors that want to do business in Duluth. We have $1.1 billion in the medical district. We are seeing more growth with entrepreneurs than we ever have before. We have a workforce shortage because we don't have enough workers to meet the demand of our employers who are ready to expand. So what we have done and what we will continue to do is eliminate red tape through the Red Tape Reduction Task Force that President Noah Hobbs initiated. We have aligned our planning and economic development divisions under one department. We have embedded workforce development and really set the bar that if you as a private business are going to need cash assistance from the city, that is absolutely a place we can be. We will expect local hiring goals and workforce development as a result. So it is honestly a great time to do business in Duluth. And if people are slower to change that perception, we will get there because it is really substantial what we are seeing in terms of private equity being poured into the city right now.
And Dave Noley, how would you rate Duluth's business climate, both as a business person and from what you're hearing on the streets? And what, if anything, would you do to make it a better place for business?
So to synthesize that down, I'd say a 3 on a 5-point scale. Just to put an arbitrary number on.
So about average.
About average. Yeah, you could say about average. When I'm out visiting with business owners, particularly smaller business owners, there's certainly a level of frustration that, man, I've thought about moving my business to Proctor or to Superior. I've heard people say, it almost seems like they're trying to steal us away, like they want us to come to Superior or Proctor or another community. And then others suggest that, man, would the city of Duluth be trying to drive us away? It's almost as if they don't want us. That's one component. Or I hear people say that, man, I just want to grow my business. I need to be able to get this permit through or get this permit pulled, and then the inspection process and the entire exercise is just too onerous. How come we're not partners in the exercise? And that's another one of those perception reality things. Because I don't know that that's always true. Certainly the staff, certainly the city as a whole are looking to keep folks, and there's no way in the world that we'd be looking to drive them away. Nevertheless, the red tape reduction, it needs to be put on some steroids and get that proverbial shot in the arm to break down the barriers and make sure that these businesses are able to attract and retain and keep their employees here rather than being in other neighboring communities.
As long as we're talking finances and financial problems here, what do you say to voters who say we're tired of seeing our property taxes rise? What would you say to them?
Me too. I'm tired of seeing my property taxes rise. I'm tired of paying more in taxes in the city, in the county, in the state, and in the nation. However that may be, nobody likes to pay. Well, perhaps not. There may be some that do, but very few people like to pay more taxes. I come with an accounting background. I come from a nonprofit business administration standpoint, where in my world we take care of our needs first and our wants second. We balance our budget. There's not a magic pot to go back to and say, well, maybe we could convince the tax base that we need the citizen base that we need to raise their taxes so that we can address a particular want or even need. So we continue focus on efficiency, and that's perhaps one of my primary points coming to the table here is I don't come from politics. I don't come from government administration. I don't come from poli-sci. I come from a business environment where we make do with what we have, and if we need to grow revenue, we grow revenue, and if we need to cut expenses, we cut expenses, but we live within our means.
Mayor, have you found rising property taxes to be an issue in your campaign?
Well, nobody likes to pay more, and yet nobody wants to have less, right? Taxes are one of the ways that we are good stewards of taking care of each other, of our neighborhoods, of our public safety. So I find that education is a really important tool in that conversation. So, for instance, we have implemented priority-based budgeting. We have asked for public input over the course of 18 months. People have participated in surveys. They've been online. They've been in person, letting us know, and we've been out in the city hall and the city events talking about it. So I actually feel really good that the budget that I prepare every year, which takes us 9 months, and I'm a budget geek, so I love budgeting. and presenting our budget every year, I am very confident we are hitting the mark and the expectations that people have. I do like to reinforce that we are the smallest part of your property tax. We are about 25% of your total property tax. City is often on the front lines of where people want to have an impact in their communication with elected officials, but it is important to note that the school district in St. Louis County are larger portions of your property tax. All told, it adds up. I have yet to find one person who wants me to cut public safety or close libraries or remove staff from parks. So, you know, it's a question of balancing the needs and wants of making really tough decisions, which we have every year, but being certain that what we are going for is an arc of growth in a community that needs investment.
We have about time for one more question and about a minute each. Both of you decided as adults to make your homes in Duluth, and attracting new people who want to really engage and contribute to the community is important as you look at your strategies for growing population and tax base. How do you think the city is doing, and what can it do better?
Well, we have just been working with the state demographer. We are growing. For the first time in decades, the city of Duluth is growing. We are actually going to talk about that in the next few weeks. So it's tremendously exciting. We have not seen this growth. In fact, when you look at state demographer information, it's going down. What's making that difference is the city investing in quality of life, is the city being bold and big about our vision. It is about ensuring that people have, you know, the amenities of parks and libraries and things that are really important, but also staying on top of those basics like streets and public safety. We need to be the foundational partner of stability upon which people can build their lives. We're doing that well, and it's starting to pay off.
Well, you know, I've been hearing rumors of growth, and I've also heard, having been in Duluth for 10 years, of course, as you mentioned, moving here as an adult, that the old saying about the last one out of town, turn out the lights. In seeing Duluth's population aging and being rather stagnant, the silver lining there, cool. We don't have quite the crowds that we need, but in all reality, we need to attract and retain more.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
We're coming to an end. In 20 seconds, tell us why voters should vote for you.
Perfect, Denny. If you're looking for fresh leadership with a lifetime of experience and leadership studying and practice, then look for me.
Mayor, a 20-second pitch.
I love it. Well, thank you for the trust that the public has given me the past 4 years. This is the work that I do. This is the steady vision that we have built together as a community. Let's keep it going. Let's keep growing our city, our region, and the state of Minnesota.
Mayor Larson, David Noli, thank you so very much. All the best in your run for mayor.
Thank you so much.
Tonight we remember Xavier Bell, a leader in the African American community who passed away at the age of 57. X, as he was known to many, was the founder of the Family Freedom Center and had a long career with Duluth Community Action. His contributions to the city and his legacy will be remembered Saturday at Peace United Church of Christ in Duluth on 11th Avenue East. Visitation begins at 2 p.m. with the celebration of life at 3 p.m.
It's time now for the business news from our friends at Business North. The merger of two independent area banks became official when National Bank of Commerce and Republic Bank received approval from the Comptroller of the Currency and the Federal Reserve. Founded by the late Gino Paulucci, Republic gradually was sold to NBC as his successors liquidated their shares. The transaction represents one of several bank mergers to occur in the Twin Ports during recent years. Others include Park State Bank acquiring Pioneer and Franzen Bank's purchase of a Duluth Alerus branch.
In another industry where independent operations are gradually being absorbed by larger firms, Mercy Hospital in Moose Lake announced a formal partnership with Duluth-based Essentia Health. Earlier this fall, Mercy issued a request for proposals to several healthcare providers, seeking a formal partnership to bring greater stability and resources to the community. Board members chose Essentia, citing its strongly aligned mission and Essentia's plan to grow primary and specialty care services, along with hospital and emergency care. The affiliation process now moves into a due diligence phase.
Ashland book author and writer Julie Buckles and her husband Charlie Ray recently purchased What Goes Around Books in Ashland. Buckles said brick and mortar used bookstores are doing well, and trends indicate they will continue to be successful. Shortly after the purchase, they renamed the business Honest Dog Books, which is open on Saturdays. Honest Dog is a term used by mushers to describe a sled dog that never quits. Buckles is a sled dog musher who says the name is an homage to a store that has endured. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
Keep up with our latest topics by following Almanac North on our social media channels. You'll find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And for updates about your favorite PBS programs, visit the WDSE website, where you can also find news about the station and learn about our upcoming public events. And a reminder to viewers, Denny, that they should turn their clocks back 1 hour this weekend as daylight savings time comes to an end.
I think I'm going to have to go to bed earlier. Is that right? It's going to get dark nice and early.
Yeah. No, well, missing that whole thing can really kind of throw off your whole next day.
It can for a-
I don't know how many times I've found myself showing up to church at the wrong time after.
At my age, it throws me off for a month or two.
All right. Well, for Denny and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.